Well, good evening, everyone. How we doing? All right, how we doing, Democrats? First things first, let's give it up for Tom and Diana, the chair and the vice chair of Morgan County, for all that they do. So I live in South Bend, Indiana, okay, and I'm the state chair. This is a little ways away from South Bend.
Yeah.
I went through 2 rainstorms, 2 state highways, 2 interstates, and 1 nice gravel road to get here. So it is awesome to be with you. What a beautiful space this is, and what a fantastic turnout.
How many detours, Mike?
1 detour and 4 lane closures. But you know what? We delivered on infrastructure, didn't we? All right, we'll take it. That's union jobs, union labor. I just want to speak very briefly, but what a beautiful night this is. I wish I could do this every Tuesday night and look outside and see that. Just a few things. I have had the great fortune in my life of working for 2 great people, Joe Donnelly and Pete Buttigieg. Folks know those guys? Those are different guys. They're different politicians, different ages, different offices, different careers, all of that. But those guys, when I worked with them shoulder to shoulder, they taught me one thing that's central to politics. You go everywhere and you talk to everyone. It does not matter how they have voted in the past. It does not matter if they're going to vote for you in this election. You go and you show respect and you talk to people. You talk to people in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas, everywhere. You talk to them. And I think that for so long, over the last few cycles, we've forgotten to talk to people in politics. Not only have we forgotten to talk to people, we forgot to listen to people. And I think that we got to get back to basics, and I think projects like this help us do that. So Michelle and Thomas and everybody, thank you for building this, and thank you for what you're building. And lastly, I want to say that we will be making a donation to the Rural Summit Project.
Yeah.
On behalf of the Indiana Democratic Party. I wanted to get that out early so I could get more applause, maybe. Gotta work the crowd, you know. But in all seriousness, we are thrilled at what you are doing. When I became chair a few years ago, I really wanted to make sure we put an emphasis on rural. And so here's what we did. I have the ability to appoint deputy chairs as chair of our party. I live in South Bend, as I said. There's a guy who lives all the way 408 miles as the crow flies in Muckport, Indiana. Anybody been to Muckport? It's in Harrison County on the Ohio River. I deputized somebody who had worked with the Farm Bureau for years to be a deputy chair for rural communities. And his name's Kent Yeager. And he has worked with Michelle and some of these candidates and joined calls, and he's been keeping me up to speed on all of the work. I wanted somebody who was a deputy chair at the state party who was always at the table, literally, advocating for rural issues and advocating for people who live in rural Indiana. That's number 1. Number 2, since I've been chair, we have had 150 events all around the state, similar to this, in 70 counties out of 92 counties in Indiana. We have to go to these places and we have to talk to people. If you're only getting Fox News and conservative talk radio, you're not hearing the other side, right? So we have to show up and get that earned media. We have to tell our story, and we have to talk about why our policies are better for Hoosiers, right?
Right.
Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
So, a few things. I mean, 2024, holy smokes. Look at what is coming down the pike, right? First things first, are people excited next year to utter the words, Madam President? Yeah. Okay. I am too. So, I think that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on our ticket has just improved our game. I think that there is now going to be stronger base turnout in Indiana. I think you see enthusiasm like this tonight. But I've heard from county chairs in all corners of our state, we have 92 counties, by the way, they're saying we are seeing new people. We are seeing people that we haven't seen since 2008. We're seeing people that are moving to our community, asking to be involved in the local county party. And that was not happening just 3 months ago. So number one, that enthusiasm, that excitement is there. Number two, we have fantastic candidates running up and down the ballot. You heard from Terry Gooden tonight, but Jennifer McCormick is on track to win this race against Mike Brown. Mike Braun has that affliction that hurts some politicians. The more people he meets, the fewer people like him. So, he's got to get that checked out. But he's not a popular guy. And Jennifer, she was a former Republican, but you know what? That's okay. She was elected, she got into the State House, she saw this supermajority for what it was, and she said, this is bad for Hoosiers. This is bad for teachers, this is bad for students, this is bad for parents, this is bad for workers, and most importantly, this is bad for kids. And that's why she's running for governor. That is a strong message anywhere you go in the state. There's a libertarian running again, right? Donald Rainwater, make it rain. So he's running again. There's this perfect storm sort of brewing out there. Jennifer's up on TV. The Republicans just came off of a huge bruising primary where they spent millions of dollars against one another. I really, really think that she and Terry are poised for a big win on November 5th. So, the other folks that are running, I see the shirts here, Destiny Wells. Yeah. Destiny's from Martinsville. She is a veteran, she is an attorney, she is a mom, and she's running for the right reason. She ran 2 years ago for Secretary of State, she's running now for AG. Todd Rokita has been in politics for 20 to 25 years. And at the end of the day, folks, his biggest claim to fame might be, literally, being censured not once, but twice by the Indiana Supreme Court. How about that for public service, huh? Hoosiers deserve so much better from the AG's office than we're currently getting with Todd Rokita. Then you turn the corner and I call these guys the MAGA starting lineup, by the way. I mean, we are so off kilter. Jim Banks. I think that, I don't even have to say anything more. I mean, I think he sort of wakes up every morning, what can I do to please Donald Trump, right? And we need a United States Senator, Dr. Valerie McCrae is running. She's a psychologist. And as a psychologist, she has a great line. She says, I want to go to Washington, D.C. and have, I want to check these people's heads out. They got something going on in D.C. So we have a fantastic statewide ticket. And then lastly, and Thomas and others spoke on this, is we need 4 seats to break the supermajority. And what does that mean? Somebody hasn't maybe talked about that succinctly tonight, and I want to just share 2 things with you. Number one, and Matt Pierce and others know this, it would require Democrats to be at the Capitol for the state to conduct business. That is hugely important. Right now, that is not the case. With 4 additional seats, Democrats would need to be in the building for the state business to be conducted. There would be checks and balances, more transparency, open door, all of that, number one. Number 2, also very, very, very important, is an extra Democrat would be basically put on almost every committee. And committees are where legislation is formed, created, goes away, dies, is morphed, all of that. And all these bad headlines, how many folks have seen bad headlines in Indiana in the last 2 or 3 years, right? Yeah. It would put speed bumps in those committees to stop and slow and change this really, really harmful legislation. Because the vast majority of Hoosiers don't want that in their daily lives, am I right? Right. We need those Democrats in those committees. That is absolutely vital. The last thing I just want to say is, could folks stand up who are running for office or who have run for office in the past? Let's give them an enormous round of applause. Let's give them a huge round of applause. We got Ross, Thomas, everybody, come out here. Trish. When I worked with Pete, we would often talk about this and people running for office. Running for office is an act of hope, and it's not easy. And the other thing I'll say is you shouldn't measure the strength and the health of a political party by going to places where it's easy to be a Democrat. I think you should measure the health and the strength of a political party by going to places where it's hard. and it's hard to be a Democrat in places like this. But in coming here and in talking with you and in doing this across the state, I truly feel over the last few years that the Democratic Party is getting healthier and it's getting stronger in Indiana. Okay? So, last thing, and Michelle wanted me to hit on this for sure, is GOTV. Okay? Get out the vote and the importance of that. Some folks have talked about it this evening, but I've had the great fortune of working on campaigns for city council all the way up to President of the United States. I will tell you one thing, and this might disappoint some folks. People are really bad voters. They're really bad voters. People are great. People are wonderful, most people. We have to do the blocking and the tackling as campaigns and political parties to get people to vote. Okay? Who's with me on this? Okay? Folks they're not great voters. Somebody will be like, yeah, I'm voting. Okay, but are they really voting, right? Right? Or, yeah, I'll take your literature, I'm voting. But are they really voting? You talk to them on the phone, all that stuff, are they really voting? We need to make sure that we're doing the things that push people in this election, more so than any other one, to actually make a plan to vote. And that can be any different way that you want to communicate with folks and how you communicate with people in your daily life. It could be social media, it could be text, it could be a phone call, it could be knocking on their door, it could be seeing them in an event like this. But keeping track of those conversations and making sure that you're touching people and reminding them, literally banging it over their head. I hate to say it, banging it over their head until they say, fine, I voted. You see all those texts we all send everybody? We do it for a reason, because it takes a lot to move people to vote. Not everybody is engaged as we are. We have to understand that, okay? 2 quick reminders. October 7th, I think we all know this. That's the final deadline to change your voting registration or to register to vote in Indiana. October 8th, people can vote in Indiana across the state. Early voting centers will open in most counties. So October 8th, people can vote. That's almost a full month of voting, all the way in the run-up to November 5th. So please raise your hand if you can commit to getting 5 folks to the polls on or before November 5th. 5 people. You'll try. The trying is good. 5 people. So how many people are in this room tonight? I'm not a math guy. It was like history, obviously. All the people, that's why politics can be so powerful. All the people in this room times 5. Then you times that by 5. Even in a small community, it can make a huge difference. And lastly, I truly believe that the margins to win a race like Jennifer's and Terry can be achieved in rural Indiana this year to win. I think that the path to breaking the supermajority also runs in places in rural Indiana, okay? So, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you very much for having me, Michelle, Tom, Diana. What a fantastic night, and I'll see you soon. Take care.